Okay, am I on? Okay, good afternoon, and welcome to the Albuquerque Film and Media Experience 25 presentation of Creating Your Sound and Career, Thriving as a Modern Musician. Keyword there is thriving. If you have any music out there, on your payment, you get paid pennies. Without post-production, you're not going to get paid pennies even. So we're very fortunate today, as our guest moderator, to have Jason Wolf. And I need to give you some information about Jason. He is an executive producer. He's an audio post-production expert and the founder of Triple Tone Audio Post in Albuquerque. It's an award-winning music facility dedicated to promoting Albuquerque's media industry. And I've got to tell you, you might make all of your music, you have to love post, because without it, the music doesn't come to life. Nothing comes to life without post. So we're lucky to have him here. So Jason's career bridges music, film, and technology, and he started his post journey in 2001 on the animated series The Kellys, following roles at tech companies like Apple, Avid, and Upcode. After founding Triple Tone Studios in Albuquerque, I always like to emphasize in Albuquerque, he produced music projects and promoted the independent band Bat Wings for Lab Rats. I never know where people get the names of these. And secured them an award-winning landmark gig at the Las Vegas Playboy Club. You have to love that. You really do. So he's an active contributor to the music industry in film industry in New Mexico, and has worked on projects ranging from Sunshine Cleaning and the Emmy-nominated series American Primeval to the feature film Res Ball, where he's also collaborated on Dene language translation. Very important. Currently, as the post-producer and music supervisor for the feature No Place, he is also producing the original soundtrack with his local band, Spitfire Fly. So please give a warm welcome to Jason Wolf.
Thank you, Mel. That was beautiful. Make sure you sign your Exhibit G, please. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us here at the AFMX 25. This is the 13th annual AFMX program. It's great to see you guys here. We have a fantastic panel here set up to provide some value and some entertainment and some insight into the music industry and how we all know that it's multifaceted and can make various directions in a career. And so I want to first start opening this up by just having all of our panelists introduce themselves and give a little bit of an update on what they're currently working on and what led them to be here on this panel with us today. Barney, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. My name is Barney Lopez. I am a promoter and booker over at the Launchpad here in downtown Albuquerque, which is associated with a bunch of other venues in town like Sunshine Theater, El Rey Theater, Inside Out, Moonlight Lounge, and then we produce shows kind of all over Albuquerque and sometimes up in Santa Fe as well. So I've been there for about 10 years doing booking and promoting, including running one of our flagship festivals, Night of the Living Cover Bands, which happens every October for 4 weekends and features over 100 local bands performing cover sets, dressing in costumes. It's a big Halloween event. Go check it out. Starts next weekend. That's my plug. And on top of that, I got into the music industry playing in bands. So I started playing in bands in high school. And through college, I started a band called Red Light Cameras and have been playing with them for about 15 years. I've had a few other bands over the years and small projects. I'm currently playing with another project called Dog Jury. And so done touring, recording, all of that kind of stuff as a musician as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jacob Shije. I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo. I'm a musician, full-time musician, which is cool. I don't feel like a lot of people can say that, but yeah, I've been playing music for the last 16 years or so since I was in high school. Played, started taking my guitar to school with me and playing with friends and starting a band. And I went to school at Northern New Mexico College in Espanola for jazz studies. I did that for about a year. And then they got rid of the program, cut the program, so I dropped out and joined the Levi Platero band. So I've been playing with Levi Platero for about 6 or 7 years now. And then I also have my band, the Jacob Shije Trio, where we do a lot of, rockabilly, rock and roll. I've been doing that for about 4 years. So, yeah, and I guess that's how I got into music, just because, I just wanted to play guitar. I bought a guitar because my best friend was like, if you buy one, I'll buy one. And so I bought one, and that summer I had a surgery on my leg because of skateboarding, so I couldn't walk, so I learned how to play guitar from a Beatles chord book that I bought on sale at Borders when it was closing down. So thanks to the Beatles, I play guitar, I play bass, record and travel, tour a lot, and trying to live life as a musician. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Sydney Counce. I am not a musician. I am an artist manager and business consultant on the music side of the industry. I entered the industry when my middle child was born. I had a corporate job and he was born medically complex, and I was like, shoot, I need a job that I can do from home. And my spouse is a musician. I was like, I think I could be an artist manager. And I had no idea what I was doing. But I really wanted to be in the industry. Like, I saw so many people in the industry that seemed to enjoy it, and so I did that about 10 years ago, and I haven't looked back. And I'm happy to be here and share my knowledge with you all today.
Hi, I'm Brian Botkiller. I grew up in New Mexico. I was born in Santa Fe, and really wanted to be a filmmaker for a long time. Made a bunch of really weird films, but was always a musician. I started off, like most, playing the guitar pretty poorly, and then figured out I was supposed to be a drummer, which is good. I have a really patient mother who dealt with me learning how to play the drums, which is a big deal. And now, flash forward a number of years, we're not going to say how many, I am lucky enough to run a company called PC Audio Labs with a partner of mine in Nashville. We build and configure pro audio PCs for music production. We work with composers, with home studios, large studios, and then all the way up to government complexes like the Library of Congress and a lot of other complex technological needs when it comes to implementing technology into the music making process. And a lot of that came from the fact that I had been a touring drummer and electronic musician, and just like making music for so long. I'd been on the road, and I was just not able to be on the road all the time, but I wanted to still be active in the music industry because I love music more than anything. And luckily enough, I figured out how to be a business owner / musician / I joke that I wear hats all the time because I actually virtually wear about 10,000 hats. So I figure, why not just wear one all the time? And I'm just right on the outside. I just want to say, like, how excited I am to see all this happening in Albuquerque, and grateful that there's everyone here who's making this happen. So thank you guys a lot.
Great. Well, fantastic. Well, our panel today is spread into 3 segments. And our first segment that we're going to be discussing here as a panel and with the audience is how musicians craft our sound. Crafting your sound. So I'm going to start off with a simple question, and feel free, panelists, to jump in. I don't know if we're sharing mics or if that. But the first question that I have for us here is, what habits or practices help songwriters and musicians consistently create new material? Brian, here.
That's really cool to ask, actually. So I was really bad at finishing songs for a really long time. I like most of us, we have a tendency, especially I think as musicians, to just be like, the only time that I'm going to do anything is when inspiration comes, which I'm here to tell you right now, don't do that to yourself. Because if you wait for inspiration to come, it's going to take forever, and it also may not happen, / you may be blind to it when it does happen. So that's like the first thing is like, don't wait for inspiration. Like certainly use inspiration if it happens, you know, if something comes to you in the shower or whatever, like use that and hang on to it. But the biggest thing and best thing you can do for yourself, no matter what kind of musician you are, and I think especially if you want to be working more in the world of, you know, being a live player or anything like that, or a session player, et cetera, but like wanting to see your music make its way into other media outlets and things like that, the best thing you can do is just sit down and do the work.
So you did the 52 song year challenge?
Yeah, kind of.
Right?
Yeah,
And so
I do.
Does that help create
Yeah.
the energy that goes into songwriting and
Yeah.
keeping that,
Yeah.
keeping the axe sharp and the brain receptive to inspiration?
Yeah.
'Cause you challenge yourself. So this is a 52-week, one song a week
Yeah.
challenge
Yeah.
that I've seen you did once or twice.
I've done it over 10 years. I've done it 6 times.
So 6 times. So
I do it on
52
even
songs,
numbered
right?
years. So every even numbered year, I write and release a song every week.
So yeah, does that satisfy this desire or this motivation to create new material? Like,
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say is like, if you, because also just telling yourself to do the work, then like musicians and artists in general, like we all know we're pretty loath to be like told to do things, right? We're like, no. Make me do it, right? So like you got to make yourself do it, and that was when I started to do this project in 2014. It's called Weekly Beats, and it's from a website called weeklybeats.com. And if you ever go there, there's literally probably more music than you could ever listen to in, I don't know, a year or more. It's crazy. And it's just a bunch of music geeks that just make music, but the goal is release it every week. Nobody wins anything. There's no like, hey, you did the best at music award or anything. It's just doing it to do it. And you don't have to write one every week. But I started to do it in 2014, and I finished all this stuff that I hadn't finished. And I was like, ooh, okay. And I finished it like halfway through, and I was like, crap, now I have to write new stuff. And so then, by then I was in it so much that the completionist in me was like, okay, I want this. I want 52 songs. So then I did it. And then now I just do it every even numbered year because it makes me sit down and do the work. And then the part that you were also bringing up, and I think everybody else is going to have a lot, maybe more insight than me on this because you play with bands still. Like I'm not really playing in a band anymore. I'm just composing by myself. But I think this applies either way, is just having like not a formula, but just a system for yourself about how you sit down and like work on music. Like it doesn't have to be formulaic and strict, but knowing like, okay, I've set my tools aside, my time aside, my space. I know things are ready, so you can just go and do it. Because if you can't just go and do it, you're like, I don't want to. Life is crazy, and I'm not gonna, you know. So, I think that is kind of what made me get stuff done.
So for the inverse of that, thank you for that, Brian. That's awesome. But for the other side of that, Barney, now you have been playing with red light cameras for a long time, 15 years. What does that songwriting and inspiration and motivation to create new material look like for you? And when you're workshopping a song, is it following now the signature that you've created for yourselves, or is it pushing boundaries to maybe go out to a side or a genre that, you know, Red Lights doesn't necessarily explore? How does that look like for you with a working band?
Yeah, I guess with a working band, it's like a little different. I know for us, we come. Me and Amanda, who started the band, both come from a theater background. And so a lot of my experience with creation has been in a group setting. And I think that kind of passes over into what we do with the band. And like the key to that is the same as everything. You just have to practice like all the time to get it right. And so usually with us, our writing style works like someone brings in a part of a song or a little piece of something, and then we'll, as a group, jam on that and kind of feel it out and see if it clicks, if something's matching up, or maybe we'll find something we'll go like, oh, that's kind of similar to the jam that we did at the last practice. Maybe we can put these two together, and maybe this is a whole thing. And then from there, for us, our formula is kind of like, if it sticks, then keep going. But if it doesn't, let it go, And so we have lots of songs that we've workshopped and tried and practiced that just didn't stick. And by the next time we got back to practice, it's gone, which is kind of like fleeting, and music is kind of like that. I've always felt that music is like we're satellites as artists, right? And sometimes the tuning is right in our head and we can hear the music that's all around us in the airwaves. And then if we can kind of tune that into the right thing, into our instrument, then we can kind of get that song out there. But for us, if a song's jiving and it's working good in practice, we usually end up trying to take it to a live show. And granted, we're a band that plays live very often, almost weekly, every other week or so. So we have opportunities to take a song in front of an audience and kind of workshop it a little bit, see if it works. And once again, if it's not working, leave it or take it back in the shop and like rework it and see.
Yeah, so you then use the audience feedback, that energy that you're getting from a feedback when you're workshopping a song and it's half baked. You bring it up on stage, you get that vibe from the audience, you get that vibe from the like performing it live. Because there's a difference between workshopping in your studio, rehearsal studio, versus taking it to the stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's part of your crafting process, is getting that feedback.
Well, and I think that's also just like rooted in my like theater background, where like I've always felt like if there's not an audience, then it wasn't a performance, like it was just a rehearsal. And so like part in the creation of stuff, I feel like there's a give and take between you and the audience that you're performing for. And you have to listen to that somewhat, right? And then obviously you go into the studio and things change, and sometimes like that live feeling that you have in a song that's really working in front of a crowd doesn't translate into the studio, and so you have to work with your producer, your mixer, to kind of figure out where those holes lie and where you can kind of fill the slots.
That's a fantastic point. That's great. And so Jacob, you formed a band and you have a backing trio. Right, and so like, what's your crafting process look like? I know you cover a lot. We've played shows together, but how does that work for you? Do you get just an inspiration and you have to like record it or chart it out, or how does that look for you?
Yeah, I would say for myself, I do have my trio, which is rockabilly, rock and roll, but I think when I was kind of becoming my own musician and myself, I was listening to a lot of like bedroom pop stuff. It was a lot of people who were doing their own thing on their iPhone, like Steve Lacy and Omar Apollo, who are doing things, by themselves in their bedroom. And that's kind of how I kind of do my own stuff now. I don't know. I don't have my band with me all the time. Of course, everybody has their own lives and they're all older than me, so they have other things that they're doing. So for me, I'm always kind of by myself, and so I have guitars all over the house, and pick up one, start playing, and something kind of comes, and kind of same thing like you said, something sticks in your mind, and so I'll either record a voice message of me playing it and being like, okay, well, here's the key, here's how it goes, because I don't know, there's times where sometimes like I'll just forget it too, right, where you're like, think of something, you're like, oh, that's great, and then you just forget completely. So it's like, well, you have your phone, you have technology, and I think that's kind of where I am, where I have technology to help me. And even like recording, I have my iPad and my iPhone and GarageBand on my phone, and I can just pull out my phone anywhere and be like, oh, let me just mess around, and something kind of clicks and keeps going. So for me, my process is a lot of by myself, which maybe might not be so great, because I think there is also like there's always a different feel, when you get from other musicians, other people you're collaborating with. And so for me, like we've been working on some like instrumentals, and I record them again on my computer by myself in my house, in my bedroom, and then I bring it to the band, and it's weird just how things kind of change. And again, playing them live in front of people, we record them, they sound different recording, but then they also sound different live. So yeah, I guess that's my process of just doing things kind of by myself. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
you have to trust that process, right? Because one thing that for me, when I would fear losing ideas, that's when I started thinking that I wouldn't have any more ideas. But when you have an idea and because music is born, right? It comes in and it comes out. It's born, and you have that moment to grab it, or you have that moment of saying, "Yeah, as a musician, I will come back to that when it's ready to come back."
Yeah, or like the same thing, or like things evolve and things change, like I'll play, I don't know, a lick or certain chords structure, and then I'll be like, that was nice, and then maybe like 2 or 3 weeks later, I'll completely forget about it, but thinking still about it, where I'm like, okay, do you remember these a little bit, how this sounded, and then it changes too, so.
Well, great. That's all good stuff, guys. Thank you. So Sydney, I'm gonna bring you in on this. So as a manager, how do you work with musicians and the sound that they're crafting to then go and do something with it? Like how does that process fit for you?
So it's funny, like listening to you talk about your process, you sound so much like Paul from Dust City. And if you want to thrive as a musician, you have to have a plan. So like you can't wait, like you were saying, you can't wait for inspiration. So it's like if you don't have a goal in mind, you don't know what you're working towards. So you need to define a goal in space-time so that you're working towards something. So if it's writing a song, you need to say like, I'm going to write 52 songs a year. And then a year goes by and if you met that goal or not. And if you don't meet it, you need to go back and adjust it. So when I'm working with artists, one of the very first things that we do is we talk about like, what are your goals? What's your short-term goal for your career? And then where do you see that in 5 years? And how do those work together? So be it songwriting or recording or performing, you need to define your goal, and it has to be measurable, and it has to have a deadline. I mean, you have to have those things in order to know if you're meeting your success or not. And if you keep missing that, you need to go back and tweak your plans.
So as a manager and a rep and an artist liaison, how much influence do you have on the musicians that you work with in that process?
It really depends. So like my primary project that I work with, Dust City Opera, I have a lot of influence on that band. Like that's sort of like my baby. That was the first project I came in with, and I've worked with them full time for a really long time. So I have just such a deep belief in their success that it's like, I'm going to do what I can to help you guys craft. Like, let me do all the hand-holding on the business side of things so that you are free to do the art. And so that you are not clouded by worrying about finances and booking and promoting. Like, just you create the art and then let me help with the rest of the planning. But it really depends. It depends on the project and how much they want my involvement. I feel so honored that I have such a prominent role as a non-musician in a band. Like when people think about how many members are in your band, I list myself because I'm like, you won't see me on stage and I'm not writing the music, but I am a part of this project and I have a critical role in this project. So, yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Does anybody have any questions about this topic that we're exploring here on stage? Or how many of you all out there are musicians? I know Sheila. So as a non-professional, as a hobbyist musician, how would you go about the process of crafting your sound?
Yeah, I guess just lean in. That's really it. Music is art, and art is expression, right? And so I think that if you have something to express, that you feel that music is the medium for that expression, like stay rooted in that. And focus on that mainly. And it is important to have goals and stuff, but I think first off, you have to really find your voice and what you're trying to do with that. And so focusing on practicing and writing is going to make you better at both of them. But you're not going to be able to get through that if you're not being like true to yourself and really really trying to like express yourself. So I would say that'd be kind of the way to go.
Yeah, going off of what Barney said, whether you're doing this as a hobbyist or like as a career artist, I think like staying true to your authentic, like original art has to be like the key, like the core of everything. The minute you start letting any outside influences like dictate how you're making your art, like what you think other people are gonna like, or like what social media likes, or what that label might like the minute you are doing it for some other reason, you've lost the plot. So like just like really leaning into your authenticity, because somebody out there is gonna like that. Like however weird and bizarre and unique, like other people are going to want that art out there, and you're the only one that can make that art. Like that weird thing that only you can do. Like it's amazing to me to watch artists make something from nothing. Like what an honor that I get to do that. So yeah, that authenticity just needs to be like your driver.
The next segment here in our panel is going to be production and performance strategies. Ding, ding, ding. So I'll just, so this is a great question that we can all talk about here. When is it better to self-produce, and when is it time to call in the professionals for recording, mixing, or mastering? Barney, we were just talking about this in the green room. Why don't you go ahead and let us know your current situation with that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's pros to both sides. When you're starting out, recording yourself is totally the way to go. I mean, all of the production tools are there and easily available, and like they cost money, but you'll have those tools, and you got to keep holding on to them. Whereas if you jump into trying to like immediately find a producer and all that stuff, that's gonna cost money. But if you have lots of money, pay producers in town and pay everybody in town. We'll take your money for sure. But if you're not like a trust fund kid, generally you're gonna have to do a lot of DIY, and you're gonna have to record yourself, and you're gonna have to produce yourself when you start out. And then as your career goes on, eventually you'll start getting hit up by all kinds of people who say that they're producers and will say, like, I'm going to produce you and I'm going to take you to Vegas and it's going to be amazing and blah, blah, blah. Give me your money. Let's jump in the casino and let's do this thing. And that's totally a way to go. But I think getting your footing in the industry and getting to know how many people are full of shit in this industry, and knowing when to hold your cards and when to be smart about who you work with. Currently, my band Red Light Cameras is working on a new album, and so we were trying to figure out who we wanted to record with. And instead of just going with the first person that was recommended, we shopped around. We went to a few different places and recorded singles with different producers in town locally and in Santa Fe. And then we compared those singles, music quality wise, but I think the other really important thing in working with a producer is that you're working with a personality who jives with you and with your band and gets along with you. And we found someone who did with us, Marcus Scott, who we've decided to go and record a full album with him now, including the tracks that we already have. But I mean, it's really important to find the people that work well with you, because a lot of I don't know. I guess for me, just personally, I've worked with a lot of, to say it kindly, I guess, older white men who do recording, right? And I work in a band with a female lead singer, and the entire band are people of color. And sometimes the relationships between us and recording engineers or producers can be a little off balance, and there can be like a lack of respect for what we're doing. I think especially for Amanda, our lead singer, who experiences that as a woman in the music industry, and I'm sure you could speak to that as well, where people and producers will try and push you around, right? And so you have to find the right person that's going to work well with you and help you grow.
So does that just kind of come naturally, that you're in that position? Like when the band stays together for over a year, when the band stays together and gets past the band drama and like basically lives and breathes with each other and becomes this unit that isn't one person. does the next step of finding somebody and auditioning a producer and finding the personality that resonates with you to work with on a professional level, does that just kind of come collectively, like as a, oh, this seems like a good time to do this, we're in a good place in our career, or how does that come about? Or is it just
I
kind
think
of
so. I
proposed?
feel like it, as you produce your own albums, like at least for us, as we produced more and more of our own albums, we eventually started realizing that, like, we didn't know exactly what we were doing in the recording booth, like just admitting your own, what's it called? Hubris, or your that, we're not mixing engineers. We're not producers. That's not our thing. We're songwriters and creators. And so, like, I feel like eventually you hit a plateau where you need to start working with people who know what they're doing better than you do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been in multiple projects where not only was I drumming and being a musician in the band, but I was also the recording engineer. And that conflict of right brain, left brain in the studio at the same time was enough to, like, drive me mad. I mean, it was not a pleasant experience.
You're like, no, I'm sure
it's just
everybody
like-
wants the bass line up louder. I play
Yeah.
bass.
Yeah.
Never
no,
let a
we'll do that
drummer
in the
do
mix.
your mix.
Well, I mean,
Because we will always be like, the drums, man, they're not loud enough. You're like, bro, the snare is loud enough. No, it's not.
But no, I mean, there's a I think for the energy of creating, because, like, for me, and I'm sure with you all, there's also that place you go that drugs and sex and food and all the pleasures of the world can't take you there except for music. When the muscles are working, the memory is working, and everything is clicking, I find myself in a place that I don't want to get interrupted and just make sure that the compressor is kicking in when it needs to kick in. I don't want to have to be checking, like, are we touching red? It's like I want to stay in that place and put all of that energy into that recording. And so for us, it came like, yeah, okay, we should work with an outside producer. That resonates with us. That sees our ideas. And yeah, because music is a space in itself, and engineering and the science and technology that goes behind all of that is in the space itself too. But Jacob, you touched working with or listening to bedroom producers and bedroom musicians, and also doing that yourself. And I know that you've recorded with Levi, and Levi is another great recording musician and performer. But what common mistakes have you been able to identify that doing that on your own sometimes presents?
Yeah, so I think, like, listening to you talk about, finding the right person that you want to work with, I think for myself, I'm at a point where I just want to record, and doing it from my house with, our drummer. He's worked with Warner Brothers and Universal Studios, and so I think over the summer we were like, let's record our set, and we'll do it at my house. Maybe we'll do like 3 or 4 days, and I think we did 2 days, and we didn't get anything done. So it's like like that, where you're like, we have the resources to do it. We have people who know what they're doing, who are in the band, and trying to switch off that mindset too. Because he would be like, oh, we need to turn up this, and we should move the mic here and do all this stuff. And I was like, I don't have that much space in my house to record this. So I think for myself, I'm at a point too professionally where I'm like, what, I can't do this myself. I'm doing too many other things, booking myself. I'm trying to be a band leader. I'm doing other things, so I need to outsource and contact other people. And so I think for me, I've worked with Ken Riley at Rio Grande Studios, and he's really great. And every time I see Ken, he's always like, I've recorded all your friends except you. So he's such a good dude, and I love that guy, and he's really hilarious, and I really love his sound. And so I think for myself, like, that's where I am. I know we can do it by ourselves and do this, on my own, but I just can't do it because I know it won't get done. So it's like, let me dedicate this time to funding this project and working with other people so that this project gets done. And maybe that's what it is that, maybe outsource and connect with other people so you can finish projects and have other people tell you that you need to get it done too. So Yeah, so that's I think just collaboration for sure kind of pushes.
No, that's a great point about not getting anything done, because it's great to be like at somebody's house or at your house and stuff, but it's just like, yeah, let me who needs water? There's just all sorts of other stuff to
or
do.
the
at
bathroom's
home.
right
Everybody's
next to
comfortable.
something.
And so I think that's a great not mistake, but a pitfall that DIY musicians can get into. Now, speaking of DIY musicians, Brian, I know you have vast experience of producing and working with people, and also producing your own music. So what do you have to say about this topic here?
Big bold letters, mastering. Go to somebody else for your master.
Another set of ears.
Yeah.
Like it's unbiased.
Yeah.
Removed
Ear
from the
fatigue.
project.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with mastering your own work by any means, because the tools are all really there. But the problem is, you're too close to your own work. And that can be said also for, obviously, working with someone who's producing you / acting as your mix engineer, your recording engineer. Usually those two are one and the same, etc. But you can be really close to all of that, and I think really still manage some kind of artist versus how the art is being presented relationship in some way. But the way that the recorded media ends up making its way out into the world, it's just, if you can pass it on to somebody who knows how to master and who you trust, I think that's probably the biggest thing, and the reason a lot of people always don't want to go with mastering. Also, for some reason, there's always this thing of not wanting to pay somebody to do mastering, but being willing to go into a studio and spend a lot of money. And I don't really understand that, because Barney, I like what you were saying, practicing a lot and working a lot. That's really important, because that's how you get ready for when you go into a studio and you're going to be burning cash if you don't nail it the way that you need to nail it. Because that's the reason that most bands are really frustrated when they go in to a studio, is they're like, okay, guys, we paid for 10 hours of time and we just spent how much doing that, and so everything that really all three of you are saying is the big thing here, is crafting as much for yourself as you can and being true to yourself, because that's how you're going to go in and do it. But then, getting back to that, just give somebody else your tracks to master if you can, because a mastering engineer who really knows their stuff is amazing, because they're not super close to your work. They haven't been sitting there listening to it on loop for a year, right? Tweaking the one thing that no one is going to hear or something, and being it's better. Nope, it's worse. Nope, it's better. Nope, it's worse. Here's version 932 / final. Hopefully, maybe it is. I'm really hoping this one ends up being the last one, for the love of God. I fucking hate this, right? And that happens to everybody, and that's fine. That's part of the process. But when you get to the point that you are willing to be perfection doesn't exist, just get it out there. If you can give it to somebody like Wolf, or somebody who knows how to just be okay, you want it to sound good, you need it to sound good across a lot of mediums. Oh, you're going to press vinyl, then you really need to make sure that this is mastered the right way. Just give it to somebody else, pay $100, $150, whatever per master, and let it be done. Because when you get it back, you're going to be holy shit, we sound good. It happens. And it's also cool to master your own stuff. I master a lot of my own stuff because I do want to get it out, but that I'm literally willing to always admit that I am not the person who knows best, because I'm too close to my own stuff. So, and if you can't, that's okay too. If you can't afford that, it's totally fine to use tools that are available to make it so you can do it.
There are tools. Ozone and Waves is now offering mastering and stuff, and that's a good way of gauging what technology can just do on its own versus going out and shopping or interviewing or working with a mastering engineer. Because there's going to be a whole other set of things that you need to bring to that mastering engineer. I prefer stems. I don't like to mix stems, but first, stems, of course, and then, format and things like that. But so, Sydney, with all of the, with the trials and tribulations of self-producing or going with a professional or with somebody else, help you along with that process. For getting like live gigs, is it that product that is getting you the live gigs, or is it more networking, or is it what you sound like live versus in the studio, or is it the online presence? What is it? What gets you?
I'll give
the
you
live gigs?
I'll give you my opinion, and then I really want to hear what Barney says, because he's the booking agent. He's the talent buyer in the room. So I mean, there are a lot of things that come into play for that, but nothing matters if you don't have a good live show. Like, it doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers online. It doesn't matter if you have a kick-ass record. Like, all of that can be faked. And it doesn't matter if you get on stage and your show sucks. So you need to be tight. You need to be well rehearsed. You need to have chemistry with your bandmates. You need to have chemistry with your audience. So like, if you have all the check boxes on your press kit, but you get on stage and it's like you're staring at a music stand and you're tuning awkwardly between every song and you don't know what song you guys are playing next, like, you have a lot of room to improve that live show. And a lot of the bands I work with that are starting off really small, that don't have recorded music, that don't have like really anything of substance, all it takes is like one good, even like cell phone video of them kicking ass on stage in front of an audience to get people to be like, yeah, we'll take a chance on you. We'll book that. So have a good live show. That's like the best thing that you can have. If you want to play live, you got to be good live.
I love it. You just combined the two of production and performance strategies into like one thing. It's know your material, love your material, be able to perform your material confidently, and the rest follows. Whether you're in a multi-million-dollar studio, whether you're taking it to George Horn for vinyl mastering, wherever it's going. So that's great. That's great. Yeah. And so as a promoter, what do you look for then, Barney?
The secrets, cash, envelopes of cash. I'll give you my address. I need crypto. Yeah. I totally agree what you're saying, that like you can have the most amazing like EPK, and it's weird because I see this all the time as a booker, where there are some bands who are so good at like building their social presence and building this image of like an Instagram account with tons of cool photos and videos and music and all of that. And then I'll book them on a show, and they'll show up and they'll be like, oh, well, we brought our own in-ear monitors and we've never hooked them up before. How do we do this? You know, like, and they take forever on stage, and they don't have any stage presence, and they don't perform well. And like, I don't book them again. I mean, or, you know, or I'll give them some time, and I'll come back to it and hope that they get better over time. But it really is, you have to have a good stage show. And conversely, there are like local bands who are amazing. They're great live bands, and they put on a great show and all of that. And then you go to look for them, and they have nothing online. There's not a track anywhere to be found. And you're like, well, I want to tell my friend about this cool band I saw last night, but I'm just going to have to tell them, and they're going to have to take my word for it, right? And so there's a medium, right? You can get there and without like killing yourself. I guess like as a promoter and booker, I'm always looking for new music. I'm always like checking out new stuff. And so I often get hit up by bands who introduce themselves to me, and I'll immediately ask for a link to music. It can be one song. That's it. It can be a live recording on your iPhone, all of that. But if you have a song that's up on Bandcamp or Spotify or SoundCloud or just somewhere that you can link to me, and a social media page of some kind, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, then that at least gives me something that I can hold on to and start doing my digging. And so as a promoter and booker, I do a lot of like sleuthing, really, kind of like looking online and seeing what bands are worth, quote unquote, you know, because at the end of the day, my goal is butts and seats. And if there aren't butts and seats, then my bar staff doesn't get paid, my sound guy doesn't get paid, the bands don't get paid, And it's still, as much as I'm like a socialist and like communist and whatever, and I want everything to be free and universal basic income now and all that, we still have to pay our bills at the venues, and the way we pay our bills is through sales. And so if your band shows up and you bring a bunch of people to the show, that's the number that gets back to the boss. Not like how good were they on a scale of 1 to 5 on stage. It's how many people showed up to the show? How did the bar do?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest overlooked things with a band performing at a club, is how much of a part they play in the grand scheme of things. They're doing their part. The bar staff is doing their part. The promoter's doing their part, bringing an audience. The venue is bringing the sound.
We hope, right?
Manager.
Yeah.
Well, we all hope, but when it's showtime, it's not the time to be figuring out what songs you're gonna play. Write it down on a Sharpie with your set list. Get everything. Put in the work to have the songs rehearsed, have your gear tested out. And support that presence that you have online or whatever it took to get you the gig in the first place. We're all then now putting on the best show that we can put on, and we're all playing a part in that. And so those are all great, valid points, guys. Thank you so much.
And if I can throw in real quick too, that I think that music is a community. It's always been a community, and finding your specific community is really important in the music world. So bands that I like booking are bands that are connected to other bands in town who they play shows together often, and they have like a following that's not just their friends and family, but it's part of like a scene, if you will. And so there's a metal scene, and there's a punk scene, and there's a goth scene, and there's an indie rock scene, and there's a folk scene. There's tons of people in every single town. Albuquerque has 800,000 people, right? You can have good shows if what's the phrase, field of dreams, if you build it, they will come, right? You put your lineup together, hook up with other bands that are really good, and then approach a club and say, hey, me and these 3 other metal bands, we want to put on a kick-ass metal show. Do you have any nights open? And that's going to be like a way better step into the venues than just approaching and being like, hey, what's up, bro? Can you put me on any shows? And I go, well, what kind of shows? Do you know any local bands that you like playing with? Nah, man, just anything. Like that doesn't it doesn't help.
Or can you put me on a show with Slipknot? Like, they're coming into town. Like, can we be local support? And it's like, yeah. I mean that's all valid points, and thank you for that perspective, because I think that's really important for musicians and gigging live performing musicians and bands need to understand that it is community, and there is value in that. I mean, we've done shows. My band's done shows with Jacob, and one thing I noticed right away was his branding and his genre and his look and his style and then his musicality all support that brand that is Jacob Shije. And so, like, I have a question for you. How important is that, and how much attention do you put into building that brand? I'm going to switch gears here now, go into the marketing and audience building segment of our fantastic panel. So here we go. Switch. So how do you build that authentic brand and keep it authentic without any creeping ideas that you're selling out, or you're, back in the 80s and 90s, it was like, don't be a poser. Oh, you're such a poser. How do you bridge that gap between authenticity and also just being true to yourself and not being perceived as trying too hard?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think because especially on social media, I try my best to be myself, and even at shows and in person, I play rock and roll, so it's like I got to do the hair. I don't have to, but I choose to, because that's just what my style is, and I've grown up like that. Like, I grew up with my grandparents and listening to rock and roll, and so it's kind of in my blood to play rock and roll and not try to be a poser, I guess, where try to listen to rock and roll bands and other things outside of that, but I mean, most of the time I'm listening to blues bands and rock bands and bands from the 50s and 60s. And I think trying to have like a steady look, I feel like for myself, I get noticed a lot because of my hair, or I also wear sunglasses on stage. And the main, I guess, two reasons why I wear sunglasses is one, because of Roy Orbison. I guess also because I can't see without my glasses. And then two, I feel like it's that look, right, where you're like seeing somebody on stage and you realize a certain something about that person on stage, and then when they're off stage, you're like, oh, that's that guy. You know, like that's kind of how I get noticed sometimes around town, where I'll be wearing my sunglasses. I'll be out at, it happened like a month ago or a couple weeks ago, we were at Smith's in Santa Fe buying groceries, and I walked in and some guy did a double take at me, and he's like, are you Jacob? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I thought so. And I think it's, you know, building that look. I think I heard somebody say like Chapel Roan, like she didn't start blowing up until she dyed her hair red, and it's because of that. Like people have like a certain I guess the mental thing, you know, when they look at you, you're like, you're noticing something about somebody. And even I think that's how it is on stage too, where I don't want to be wearing a t-shirt and jeans on stage. It's like, I want to dress up. I want to look nice. I want to look the part, because it also is my job. I'm doing this as my job. It's my job to keep you entertained. It's my job to keep you here and keep you enjoying the show. So I feel like having your own kind of look and feel of who you are on and off stage for sure gets people noticing you.
I think, so coming back to the question earlier about like that authenticity, I think when you like get really granularly clear about your artist identity, that can help you have a more potent audience. So you might not have a bigger audience, but it's not going to be diluted either. Like if you're just like trying to have this broad sort of generic stage presence, okay, you maybe you'll attract more people, but they're not really into it. And when you just get like so super clear on your identity, like what Jacob described, like people can make a decision if they're in or they're out. Like either people are going to be like, I only go to metal shows, good thing I know not to go to your show, or like, oh my gosh, I love rockabilly, I'm in. Like it helps people make a decision, and that way the people that do show up in your audience, like they are in it for real, and they're going to buy the album, and they're going to come out to your shows, and they're going to tell all their other friends that love rockabilly about you. And like it just it serves you. Like we're talking about thriving, right? We're talking about like being able to thrive as a musician. And so like digging really into like what your authenticity is going to help you, and it's going to help your audience know if they want to be in it with you or not. Yeah. Hopefully that's helpful.
That's great. I love how you dovetailed into what Jacob and Barney was saying. And with Brian, with your online presence and with your DIY musician mentality, what advice could you give a musician that is looking for that that strategy for building a fan base, whether it's online or whether it's performing shows? Because I know you do a whole bunch of live shows, PAs as well. But as a budding musician, or as somebody that's starting out, what strategy would you recommend in that?
I mean, you said it earlier, and everyone here has said it, and honestly, it's authenticity. Like I've worked with a lot of artists to do artist development for them who, you know, they don't necessarily want to be very forward facing. Like they kind of want to take a Daft Punk move and not necessarily wear masks, but like they don't necessarily want them to be the center of the music. They want the music to be very forward. And I can totally understand that. You still, I mean, because that is being authentic also. Like if somebody tells me that and says, man, I don't want to do that, if that's their authentic self, then that's really important, because you should know what it is you want to do. Because if you start doing something that you really dislike, I mean, people can tell. They can tell. It's a lot of things in the music business would have you believe that if you just follow whatever thing is currently hot, whether it's sound, look, production style, or any combination thereof, that then you'd be okay and you would be making a bunch of money. But it's never true, because all you're doing at that point is following something that's already established, that this industry will manage to burn out and then already have something else that's on the back burner that is going to get moved up. And that doesn't do you any good if you're being authentic. Because you're not being authentic at that point. So I really think that that's the most important thing, and part of that is also it's telling your story with the music. Like I this client with whom I was working, he said, I don't really want to be a content creator. And I was like, good, because being a content creator sucks. Like I'm not going to tell you as a musician to go and be a content creator. There's like a bunch of gurus out there that say that the way to end up being a thriving and successful musician is to
Buy my course.
Yeah, buy the course. Yep, buy the course. It's only $5,000, dude. Just invest right now. Buy the course, and then find out that on the back end of that course is just being told that the way for you to be able to make it is to put out 10 pieces of content every single day for an entire year. Like, I've seen this kind of stuff peddled, and it's just not true. Because also, if you say, like this client of mine, I don't want to be a content creator, I was like, okay, good. But I was like, but you really love your music, right? And he said, yeah, I really, really do, and I feel really good about this. And I said, okay, so what I want you to do instead is just sit down, take your album that you produced, and then tell the story behind these songs, like what it was that you were really, what you were feeling, or what it, like it doesn't have, and I told him, like, this doesn't have to be that every single song is about heartbreak and everything else. Like, he literally wrote a space opera. Like, it's an amazing album. It's called Into the Void. His name is The Den of V. I highly suggest that you go and listen to it because it's super cool. And I was like, yeah, he thought that it wasn't going to get any audience because of that. And I said, no, absolutely it will if you talk about what the story is. And so he sat down, and for every single song, he wrote that story. And then from there, we built out just some basic visual stuff that had to do with telling what that story was in little snippets and using that as the forward-facing stuff on Instagram and everything else. But I wasn't going to tell him, I need you to get up and do 30 selfie videos every week and be like, hey guys, in the studio, my album's really great, listen to it. Because no one really cares. What they do care about is hearing like what actually makes you, right? Like what you actually enjoy. And if they don't, if they just want something that's like a fake sheen, then they're not your audience probably, unless that's your authentic self. And you could do that as a lark, as a goof, whatever. If you want to be like ridiculous and that's your thing, cool. But if you want to actually be like doing this in 20, 30 years or something like that, like you damn well better just be real about who you are, and listen to like what's being said about being authentic. Like that is the truth, especially from like you guys doing this stuff this way as well. Like I can say a lot of this because I learned it also the hard way. I had a band that did really well, and when we started to do stuff that was not us, it wasn't good. I didn't have fun, and people were like, hey, it sounds like you don't like the music anymore. I was like, you're right. Crap. So
yeah, your audience can tell that about you. And I ran into a musician and a really good friend of mine just on my way here when I was walking over here, and I hadn't seen him in a while. And this guy is an amazing musician. I mean, he just picks up a guitar and can play anything. And I was happy to be a drummer for his band for a long time, and it got me thinking. And I've always thought this, that it's not the music that he plays, it's not the sound of his voice, it's not the familiar songs or the new songs that he shares with people. It's who he just is as a person. And that's what grew his like fan base, and that's what it's the reason why I go see Tracy Whitney over at this. I know the standards, but it's her lovely voice and it's her beautiful soul that I'm there for. And so that, I think being in tune with that and not looking at the surface materialistic and all the other caveats and dark places that come along with this energy, being true to yourself, being true to your music, practicing that music, knowing when to work with somebody else to get your music to where you want to be, having the goals, taking that to the stage, being well rehearsed, being a team player with your community. I think that what we just summed up is what creates a thriving musician. You know, and I think that's that's what's being realized here. And I know that of all of you guys too, of like that's the passion that people hear come through your music. So as soon as you start being somebody else, untrue to yourself, you're inherently being untrue to everybody else with the music that you're trying to put out there or are putting out there unsuccessfully. Thank you for my awesome panelists for joining me. Thanks for joining those Kieran and the whole AFMX team for having us. But thanks for being here. Love sharing the time with you. Thanks.